Welcome to Lip Service for Contractors. Here you'll learn what moves the needle in your business. With your hosts, Brigham, the deep thinker, Josh, the $100 million contractor, Zach, the confused millennial, Laura, the foreigner. Lip Service. It's not about dictatorship. It's about leadership. It's not about duplication. It's about innovation. It's not about stuff. It's about your people. Strap in and get ready for some lip service.
12 years ago, I had a company that went kaput, and it was so much fun. I was in Florida, had my family there, and when it went under, I thought to myself, okay, I got to do something with my life. And I thought for sure that it'd be a good idea to get back to where my family was. So I drove back to Utah and found myself in the basement of my brother-in-law on a cot. And there was this fold-out table right next to the cot. And I sat on the edge of the cot, writing on that fold-out table, and penned the first version of the Pattern for Excellence. Since then, it has become a tool that is used by thousands of CSRs, hundreds of technicians, and many, many, many business owners in our industry. So we're going to be talking about the Pattern for Excellence during this podcast and the next. All of that and much, much more in the next 60 seconds.
Chances are you love what you're hearing on Lip Service for Contractors. And if you want to go deeper, have an actionable playbook, or just want to learn from some of the most successful and profitable contractors in the industry, check out Clover Marketing from Josh and Laura. They give away free, amazing information, tools, SOPs, scripts, and processes that help their family business grow to over 140 million. And those same tools have helped other contractors in the industry blow up their business and grow an average of 20% every single year. Check out growwithclover.com/free gifts. They update the free gifts section all the time, so make sure you keep coming back.
Power Selling Pros is the customer service coaching company for contractors. Their one-on-one coaching for CSRs helps contractors book at least 85% of their calls and wow more customers. And their group training for technicians helps you create a better buying experience in the home and close more sales. Visit powersellingpros.com to learn more about how you can make more money with their coaching programs.
All right, and we're back with Lip Service for Contractors. And we're glad that you're back. We're glad that you're here. So Pattern for Excellence, awesome tool to help you perform at an extremely high level. It helps leaders do what they do or what they should do. It's just to inspire their team to perform at a high level. So because we have a lot to cover in a short period of time, I'm going to jump in with the first principle. There are 8 principles found in the Pattern for Excellence with one end goal. The end goal is to win more moments. The way that we do that is by mastering these 8 principles. The first of which is to be positive. Positivity attracts people. And let me tell you exactly where I'm getting at there with positivity. You guys, if you're not positive, it's just not going to work. You are the first sell that you have to make. In fact, when I first started this business, the business we call Power Selling Pros, I was into it about 6 months, and I had a colleague, let's just say that she's a colleague, that called in on my cell phone while I was driving to Precision Plumbing and Heating in Boulder, Colorado. Owner's name is Tom Robichaud. And this person calls me up and says, how long do you plan to do this? You see, I wasn't making much money at this new idea, training CSRs. And what was interesting about that question is that it never occurred to me how long I was going to do it. The fact of the matter is I was going to do it. And it didn't matter how long I was going to do it. I was just going to do it. I was going to do it until it began to work, because I knew that if I kept at it, it would work. So that initial sell, that is the most important sell you have to make. Before you sell anybody else on performing at a high level, you've got to sell yourself. And that's what innovation is truly all about. You've got to take a look at a situation and go, okay, if it's going to work, great, it's going to work. You got to go for it every time. And that's the first principle in the Pattern for Excellence is being positive. Positivity attracts people. And as I believed in myself and what I was doing for CSRs, especially with Tom Robichaud and his team at Precision Plumbing in Boulder, Colorado, that my positivity attracted them to me as well as all the other clients that we work with.
Yeah, I would take that even a little further. I mean, a big part of what we do at Clover Marketing, right? It's the GFP project, right? Or GPF. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. It's growth, profit. And the last one, fun. So if you want to attract the best people, enjoy your work in life, you better be a fun place to work. It's awfully hard to be a fun place to work if anyone there is negative, right? So positivity, there's lots of ways you can think about this. You can be putting on the blinders, ignoring the negative, but really it's just accepting things as they are and being humble and being grateful and driving forward and enjoying the process, right? So many people, especially in this industry, you know, they kind of fall into this industry and it's how they make money, but it's not something they enjoy anymore. It's important that you enjoy every day and that you are positive, right? Because that rubs off on everybody.
I think is if you're faking being positive, that comes off. And I actually think this industry nurtures positivity in a way, because I think plumbers and technicians must be fulfilled and get that sense of satisfaction, because when they fix something, they have that sense of accomplishment, which, like, as a business owner, you're consistently working on one project for potentially 6 months, 7 months, a year more. Which a plumber goes into a house, fixes what he's got to fix, and he's done. He immediately has a sense of accomplishment, and that for sure contributes to positivity.
Brigham, when you lost your business 12 years ago, how did you get yourself to be positive in the first place? Because I cannot imagine myself sitting on a cot in my brother-in-law's basement with a failed business, having a very happy and positive attitude.
It was a super nice basement, and the cot was very plush.
Just glorious. Such a nice experience.
But it wasn't at all. So I went to a Barnes and Noble when things went sour in Florida, and I didn't have any money, but I had a credit card, and I went into the business section and bought a bunch of self-help books. Jeff Gitomer, Stephen R. Covey, Tony Robbins. And I just went crazy studying and reading and just filled my mind with self-help stuff. And when I got to that cot, there's one thing that I did have, and I had my freedom. You see, that last business was holding me back because I felt like it was everything I had, everything I had built. And so in a way, it was actually holding me back for something much more incredible, much better. All I needed to do was let go of what I had before, emotionally let go. And once I let go, I can remember feeling so free, so ready to create. I mean, I lost everything. The only way to go was up. So as I pinned it and wrote it, I just was, inspired by all these great thinkers, as well as, from a religious standpoint. I also studied tons of gospel speakers and thinkers, and they all just kind of came together in my mind right there in my brother-in-law's basement, sitting on a cot.
So Josh said something about sometimes part of being positive is just knowing the truth and acknowledging the truth. So when your business was, you can cut me off here, going down, which happens in lots of businesses, how did you kind of paint it with a positivity brush and fail to see things as they truly were? Because there's clearly a balance between, like, having your head in the clouds and being positive and actually being real while remaining positive.
It truly was my unwillingness to let go of what I thought was the only way I could provide for my family.
Yeah.
It was silly.
I think this is like a lot of people, you get into businesses that you don't like or you're not great at, or, it's just short of a good idea. Like this happens all the time, right? And I would tell anybody, if you've never failed in business, the only way that's possible is you haven't tried or reached high enough. I certainly have failed at things in business many times. It's one of the most empowering things to really fail at something that you feel is so important. And then when it's gone, it's like, wait, I'm still here. Yeah. It's like, wait a second, I didn't die when
That's
this
right.
idea died. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really powerful. Now, for all the contractors out listening, a lot of you have not lost your business, and that's not necessarily going to fit perfectly with you, right? But you have had ideas that you love, that you put your heart and soul into, and it fell straight on its face. And there's lots of reasons for that. But when that idea was done and you pushed it as far as you could and it didn't work out, it is freeing. And it is a choice to be positive about that. There's people that choose that and hang on to that and never let that go, and it affects them for a long time. There's people that use that as a learning experience and as growth and as an opportunity. It's like, hey, if I did something like that again, man, I would do it totally different. I know exactly what I would do differently. And I'm going to put myself in position to make that decision again.
So as part of my background, I researched like top performers and what makes them the top performers. And a person who fails, this is something unique I found, a person who fails and uses it as an opportunity, and they see it as an opportunity to improve versus they see it as a failure. The people who saw it as an opportunity to improve actually do improve and grow. The people who see it as a failure tend to identify themselves as a failure, and then you're snookered because you take that identity with you into like various different future projects. So perception and how you perceive and mentally deal with an apparent failure, which really is just an opportunity to improve. And if you see it as an opportunity to improve, you will grow from it. And again, that's just a choice.
Yeah. And just to give a little actionable to this too, because, me and Laura especially, like we love giving stuff that's actionable. It's really hard. There's one guaranteed way to be positive and be happy, and that's to have low expectations. That's maybe not the way to live through life, right? But another way of doing it is really focusing on being grateful. When you were in that cot and you still had your family, you still had your health, you still had opportunity, and I'm sure that you reflected heavily on all that. And when you realize what you have and you're really grateful and anger and upset cannot live in the same space. Laura could kind of touch base on that because she's done a ton of study on that. But being grateful is the way to maintain and increase your positivity.
Yeah, we spoke about this before, guys. Gratitude and anger, gratitude and some not so positive emotion can't simultaneously exist in the brain at the same time. From a neurochemical standpoint, they literally can't exist. Not to get too technical, but it's kind of cool. If you feel like crap, focus on something you can be grateful for, and they simultaneously cannot exist. And it's a little quick actionable experiment there because they can't. A question, Brigham, to bring you back. You clearly were sitting in the basement, rough time, and this happens many business owners. What did you do other than read books, like maybe even things you came across in the books that allowed you get out of that rut? And that rut might not be for listeners here. That rut might not be a failing business. That rut might be just a project that went south, or
Stagnant.
Or being stagnant, which is super demoralizing, or wanting to grow by 20% one year and cutting short of that, or, failures are different. It depends on perception. So what are some action steps that can help people overcome an apparent failure, Brigham?
And maintain positivity.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. There was another element at work during the same time, and that is my youngest son, Hagen. My youngest son, Hagen, has autism. And he was 18 months old at the time. And we went to this place, my family and I went to this place called Autism Journeys, which provides APA therapy and other types of therapies for kids with autism. And they had a really great program, and I was excited about it, right? My son's 18 months old. He's not eating. He's not speaking correctly. He's not up where the other 18-month-old kids should be. And they said, you know what? It's great because you caught it early. They gave us hope, and all for the low price of $3,500 a month. Now, the back of my head, I'm going, holy cow! So I give my son a chance to normal life by doing what? Going and robbing a bank for $3,500? I don't know what I was going to do. And so just backed up against a wall and having a short sketch design of the first pattern for excellence and going, okay, I've got to figure something out, because I knew that a job isn't going to be enough, right? I needed to create something. I needed to do something new, something different, and find a problem in my industry that I've been working in and solve it better than anybody else. And that's kind of how it came about. And that's what innovation is. Innovation is all about looking at a situation, seeing a problem, seeing something that you personally can fix, right? You know the answer, and then being better at solving that specific problem better than anybody else. And
So what I'm getting here is, you're in a tough spot. Are you telling the audience to look for an opportunity?
Yeah.
And the why. Yeah, the why. Yeah, the strong why.
Yeah, that was a solid why. Right. Okay, cool. So look for an opportunity and have a strong why. And that goes back to everything. We've talked about this before, haven't we? Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. Any big company that's ever existed in this, like from Apple to Google to Macintosh to Microsoft, they've all come and evolved from like a strong why.
I like how you mentioned Apple and Macintosh.
It's just because it's the best brand ever. It needs to be mentioned twice in different ways.
One of the guys I used to listen to back then was Zig Ziglar.
Oh yeah.
And one of his
that was the first speaking event I ever had, was a Zig Ziglar stage.
Wow. Well, how old was he? Because he was there.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was dementia. Like he was.
That's right. He had a fall down the stairs and lost his short-term memory, and his daughter during his last speaking engagements had to prompt him to remind him what he was going to say next. Wow. So I don't know if that was one of the ones you experienced.
Yeah. It was sad. But I've known Zig Ziglar, or not known him, but like listened to his stuff. But yeah, it was sad. It was cool, but it was a shell of a man at that point.
Yeah. One of the things that he teaches is that if, in order to get what you want, and what did I want? I wanted my son to have a chance at a normal life. I needed to help enough people get what they want. And it had an impact on me. And that's when I began to innovate. That's when I began to create that something new that is helping so many thousands today. We put 1,000 CSRs through our program every year now. So it all starts with being positive, and that positivity will attract others to you. So that's the first principle. Second principle is preparation. Now, same experience with Tom Robichaud, Boulder, Colorado. This is a fantastic company, great learning opportunity for me. When he first called me, he said that he'd like me to come for the day to work with the CSRs. And as I was talking to him, he mentioned his technicians, that they could probably use the training as well. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is a set of principles. That means it can apply to a technician as well as to a CSR. And so I started preparing, working really, really hard and getting ready to train these technicians. And when I went and trained them for the first time, it's interesting because there was such a need to train CSRs that over the years we had kind of stopped focusing on technicians and just focused on CSRs. And I have an employee, Stephen Dell, who wanted to start training technicians again. And I was a little reluctant, having not remembered that in the beginning, I trained just as many CSRs as I did technicians in Boulder, Colorado with precision plumbing and heating. And so preparation is such an incredible part of seeing opportunities for what they are. If you're not ready, if you're not prepared, you won't see the opportunities. There are more opportunities than we have the capacity to take advantage of. And if we could just make sure that we're constantly ready, constantly prepared, we'll be able to win more moments. Why? Because we'll see the opportunities.
So Josh, being prepared is clearly something that is super important from like a curricular standpoint, because you saw that opportunity, Brigham. As like a
an owner of a HVAC company or a plumbing company, like, to be prepared, what does that look like?
Okay, so we've at least offline, we've talked about physical fitness, and I've had a lot of opportunities to use it in great ways. But last 4 years, I've been training to be a Spartan racer, and it's obstacle course racing on trails, and it's fantastic. It's fun. For me, I just needed something to work towards. It sucks to work out. It sucks to run. You guys, nobody likes to run. Nobody likes to work. Can you imagine, hey, I'm going to take this weighted thing here. I'm going to lift it up and down for a while. That's not fun. However, if you're working towards something like a Spartan race, like a marathon, like a Tough Mudder or what have you, it gives you something to work towards. Why do you want to be physically fit? Because it affects your emotional well-being. You constantly want to work on you physically, spiritually, emotionally, and grow and progress. And that's why we're here, is to progress. And so it's just about being ready.
What I'm kind of reading there, when I was trying to link it back to like an exact HVAC owner or plumbing owner, it's they could be prepared through learning and consistently trying to improve. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah, it's more than it's obviously mindset is a big piece of it, right? You need to be in what I would call a growth mode, right? Like growth mode doesn't necessarily mean your revenue is growing. That'll end up being the case, right? But always focusing on making incremental improvements, answering that phone in 2 rings instead of 3. You'd be surprised how much that means to a business and how much revenue that turns into, right? It also means preparation for me really means building systems, creating things that make consistency, building your ideal customer experience. So like me and Laura, literally our flight back from Ireland spent, I don't know, 3 hours.
No, our flight to Ireland.
Oh yeah, sorry, flight to Ireland.
Jeez, details, Josh.
Spent like 2.5, 3 hours mapping out the ideal, perfect customer journey for our business, step by step. If all things were perfect, how exactly would we want them to feel? What we want them to see? What would they want them to experience at each step in the process, right? So this is a form of preparation. Does that mean you have to hit perfect every time? No. But this is setting yourself up for preparation to ease. You never ease off on your business, but when you know where you're going and you know what the ideal looks like, it becomes easier. And another big piece of this too, I think everybody on this podcast knows one of the people that really I identified really well with and I learned a lot from was a friend of ours called Ellen Rohr. And I remember one time she told me, how she got into the Zoom drain and how she got into Ben Franklin and all that. And she wasn't prepared in any way for any of it, but an opportunity came and she just decided to say yes. And I think that's part of preparation too, is having that mindset that no matter what comes, if it's a real opportunity, I'm not going to turn away from it. I'm going to find a way to say yes. And that's both a mindset thing and setting yourself up for success to, hey, I have the systems in place where I don't panic if I can't be there tomorrow. If that makes sense.
Speaking of positivity, Eleanor has that figured out.
Oh my gosh.
She's so fun to be around. She's absolutely super positive.
It sounds like we're talking about there's really 2 different kinds of preparation here, right? I mean, there's the physical preparation, like you're referring to, Josh, where you're building out the process, planning the customer journey, getting things ready. But then there's the mental preparation, which is being ready, right? Always being prepared to take advantage of an opportunity, even if you don't know what's coming.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
He approves.
Love that. So preparation is the second principle in the Pattern for Excellence. The third principle in the Pattern for Excellence is about listening. Jeff, exactly. Jeff,
You had me there.
So Jeff Gitomer says it very well when he says you got to keep your antennas up. In other words, constantly present in the moment to recognize it for what it is, as well as your opportunity to actively work in that moment to win it. So let me give you an example. when Tom Robichaud called me, he had heard that I was working with Troy Nearings Plumbing and Heating, and his call handling team. And he said, hey, I love what you're doing with Nearings call handling team. And I said, well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Well, what Tom didn't know is that I was also doing Troy's marketing. I was selling SEO and pay-per-click at the time. And he said, look, I've got my marketing all taken care of. Tom had his marketing taken care of by a guy he had been working with for years. And what Tom didn't know is that I was doing the call handling training at first for free because Troy was doing SEO and pay-per-click with me. So I was trying to get Tom's SEO and pay-per-click so that I could get paid, right? And Tom quickly took notice of my desire to do his marketing as well. And he said, Brigham, I've got that covered, but I will pay you to train my CSRs. And of course, the light bulb came up over my head. I was like, whoa, okay, there's something different here that I could do with my life. And he said, why don't you come down to Boulder, Colorado, and I will pay you to train my team. And I said, done. And from that moment on, I transitioned what I was doing. Instead of doing the CSR training for free, I started charging for that and just kind of dropped the marketing. And I wasn't a great marketer anyway. So the CSR training worked out really, really well for me. But it came down to me listening for the opportunity, being ready and present in the moment to take advantage of that opportunity when it came. So
yeah, I think
it's a powerful thing.
I forget whose quote it is, and I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to totally butcher it, but it's, the average person trips over opportunities and then gets up and walks away from them, right? They don't even pay attention to it, right? Opportunities come every single day. If you're not open to the concept, it's kind of the same thing, right? That mental preparation, right? Being ready to say yes and having enough awareness to be present enough to be in the moment to kind of take advantage of it, right? It's so many people have had great ideas that they dismiss before it even gets fully formed, right? You have to be open to listening to others, to yourself, to the world around you.
There's speaking of opportunity, there's a quote from, well, it's a quote, it's actually a way of operating from a guy called Derek Sivers. He's this like multi-millionaire, incredible guy. He's launched tons of different businesses. If you Google him, you'll see them. And he always says, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So as different opportunities come, when you're listening for the different opportunities, how Derek Sivers operates his life by is, if an opportunity comes up and if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So it's kind of a filter to distinguish the opportunities that you're now going to listen to and find out about, one wants to say yes to, one wants to say no to. So if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. He's got a whole book written about that, but it's a pretty powerful, I think, filter to not get distracted by shiny objects and actually focus on what really excites you and moves the bottom line. Yeah.
I think the big question when the opportunity comes is, if you say yes to this, you have to say no to something else.
Yeah.
Because
right.
Saying no makes it real. Right.
That's a limiting mindset. That's not necessarily true. That can be true, but some things you could say yes to and you just can figure it out. Now, does that mean sometimes you have to do some things differently? Most of the time, yes, but it doesn't mean you have to lose something else. That's a limiting mindset, right? Like that's how little versus how much. Never would I tell somebody that, hey, if you do this, that means you can't do this. If it's important to you, there's a way.
I think what he's coming back to, though, is I do think if it's important to you, there is a way. And that's the thing, making sure it's important to you. So if it's a hell yes, clearly it's important.
Yeah.
All right. So so we've touched on.
I was harsh there, Zach. Sorry.
No, that's tact. I love it. Gosh, I'm going to log out now and I'm going to go.
Well, it's funny knowing, paying attention to the different words and phrases you tell yourself. Me and Josh were recently at a Tony Robbins event, and there was some limiting belief, Josh, that you tackled. It was the more successful I become, the more busier. What was it? It was something like you didn't even realize you had it, but it was limiting to a point.
It was becoming things have gotten. I've had success over my career, right? And with each step, and launching a new business and a new concept, a new idea, this podcast, right? like it just adds up. And like at one point I thought to myself, like, I shouldn't really say yes to things anymore because I just don't have the bandwidth, right? It was a limiting belief that saying yes to something means like I have to stretch myself further. And it just clicked. It clicked at that Tony Robbins event, and I had never fully bought into that, but it clicked that was in the back of my mind. It was like in my subconscious, because I made a habit of saying yes anyway, but I always feared it a little bit, right? When you fear, you pull back a little bit, you never take full advantage. So that was what it was for me, is I realized I can say yes to opportunities, and I can find ways not to make it a drain of my time or effort. This podcast being a great example, like talking about preparation. My preparation is the years of experience. I'm the least prepared person on this podcast. It's not a lot of work. It's just fun for me, and I get to help a bunch of contractors, right? I get to say yes without really having to pull back on anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I just picked up on? Listening is obviously comes in many ways. Listening to actually the thoughts you have going around your head are super bloody important, because you become what you think about. And if you're not listening to your thoughts and they're super unproductive and limiting you from opportunity and abundance and happiness, that's kind of something you need to be listening to, you know?
Yeah. What's that, 30-minute book?
Oh, Jeannie Mac, this is a game changer. So firstly, I love it, but also I loved it even more when Paul Kelly, my father-in-law, is actually, like everybody knows, I don't know if everybody knows, but he's built Parker & Sons now to 140 million. Clearly he flipped it and stopped and figured out. And he said to me, the one book he contributes most to his success was the book, The Strangest Secret. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, because I used to listen to it when I was young, and I used to listen to it and read it over and over, and I kind of felt like a bit of a lunatic. But when I spoke with Paul said the first time he listened to it 10 times in a row, and he thought he was weird. And I was like, yes, I'm not the only weirdo. And it really assured me that, this book is actually super powerful, and it all comes down to you are what you think about. So I think that's actually a bloody solid actionable. It's 40 minutes on YouTube. Google it, The Strangest Secret. It's 40 minutes. Listen to it over and over. Every flipping time I listen to it, I get something like wow to take away from. But that'll help you that'll help you make sure you pay attention to listen to what you're telling yourself, for sure.
The cool part I'm hearing about all these, like, so we've gone through 3 points, right? But all of them really are tied together to each other. Like, if you're open, if you're aware of your surroundings and you're listening and you're doing everything there, then you tend to, be more prepared or open to ideas and concepts, and you tend to be more positive, right? If you're super negative, right, those other 2 things don't exist. Like, it doesn't matter. They all tie together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
no, it's so true. And there's another book called from Charles Duckworth or something. It's called The Power of Habit. And basically, one big thing is called I don't know. It's like one big habit can change lots of others. So if you choose to be positive, you tend to be able to be present more. As a result, you can listen more. So these tips that Brigham has, this kind of framework that Brigham has built here, is actually solid, because if you master one, you kind of naturally start to master others.
She says actually, like she's surprised. What's up?
No, it's just I've never elaborated on it. We have 2 books.
Sure, 20 minutes ago.
I doubted you. I doubted you until now, Brigham. No, I'm joking. No, it's solid, and I'm excited about this podcast. So keep going. We are on Be Positive, Be Prepared, Listen. Now, Brigham, touch on care for us.
Yeah. So the next principle is care. Thank you, Laura. When I first started training CSRs, there was just one team I was working with at Nearings Plumbing and Heating here in Utah. And I did it to save the account, the SEO account, as you know. But when I went to Boulder, I saw that and started working with Precision and their team. I saw that there was a consistency here, the same issue. And I could argue that your call handling department is the most important department in your company. The reason why that is because if they don't do their job, technicians don't work. Comfort advisors, they don't work. Bean counter cannot count beans if there are no beans to count. And that's why that calling department's got to be completely on their game, running on all cylinders, making things happen. I didn't realize that until I went to Boulder, until I started working with Tom Robichaud and his team. And as I worked with these CSRs, it's interesting. A business owner does not mean to put their CSRs and their dispatchers on the back burner. But if you find that when you have somebody from outside the organization come in and say, for example, they present a new product, something that cleans the air that you breathe, or that's a new high efficiency system, they usually present that to the technicians, and they usually bring donuts or bagels or what have you. And then after the meeting is over, you find the CSRs and dispatchers coming in and getting, the secondhand food that the technicians and the installers have just had. And so we don't mean to make them feel second best, but it happens more often than we think. And so when I came in and started working with CSRs 12 years ago, and gave them that first rate attention. And in fact, in many cases, I said, we don't even work with technicians. We work just the CSRs and dispatchers. And they're like, oh my gosh, wow, this is incredible. And they'd get calls from us twice a month where we'd use their own calls for coaching purposes and provide accountability. So just that attention made them feel important. And crazy thing, they stayed with the company longer. They performed at a higher level. Their call conversions went from 60% to 85%. So they were bringing in millions of dollars in revenue. Why? Because we were giving them attention. And so what I realized the precision was, oh my gosh, these guys need us. They need this attention. And so me recognizing their worth, and that's what caring is all about. It's about recognizing somebody's worth, that they are valid, that what they're doing is valid. They, from an emotional standpoint, need that. And that's what caring is all about.
Okay, so how can to kind of make this actionable, how can a business owner portray care to their team without being like a walkover, How can they portray care?
Great question. And I have an answer. Does anybody else want to chime in?
Hit me
Go for
with your rhythm stick. Hit me slowly, hit me quick.
So it's all about validation. It's all about validation. Okay, the CSRs and the dispatchers do not get a lot of validation, and we wonder why they leave early. We wonder why we're constantly having to interview new people. We're wondering why we have to train new people over and over again. It's because they do not feel of worth. And if the bigger a company gets, the more difficult it's going to be to have that personal touch. And so we've got to have a team of managers that we work with that understand that this validation is absolutely necessary in every department with every person and every individual. Either you do it directly or you do it with your management team, but either way, you make sure it gets done. So it's all about validation, individual validation.
That's powerful. And
I would take that a little bit. I agree with that 100%. Validation, recognition. These are things that a lot of people don't do outside of techs and comfort consultants, which is a mistake. They don't do it with installers. They don't do it with their accounting team, right? These are all important team members, right? That's why you have them. But I would say one of the biggest things, if you really want them to feel like you care, is to empower them. You have to give them the ability to not only make decisions to a point, right? So you have to have the systems to build that, right? You need to treat them like you would a technician, meaning, hey, you better pay them, you better spiff them, they better get excited, and make them feel like an owner. So that's a harder thing to do, but you'd be surprised if you empower people, recognize people for when they do good work, and you follow up effectively, right? You're really driving it in. Those CSRs, those accountants, it becomes not, I work for Parker and Sons, but I'm part of Parker and Sons. I'm part of Clover Marketing. I work with, I'm at, right? As opposed to, I work for this AC company. I answer the phones, right? That's not the mentality you want. When you have a CSR, it has to be, no, I help customers. I help customers get out of the heat in the middle of summer. I help them stop their floors from flooding, right? And which applies to care too, right? It's all about, from a business owner, your team members are your customers, period. The most important thing. If they're not set for success and they're not treated with respect and with care, they won't pass it down. And that once you do that, it becomes a waterfall. And all of a sudden those team members, your customers, will take care of your extra customers as well. So I think making them feel like an owner and really treating them like you would your highest star technician when they deserve it is really powerful too.
I think it makes people, I think it raises the standards a little bit too. If you make people feel, if people think you trust them and you care about them, they don't want to bloody disappoint you. And as a result, they'll keep performing to hit that goal, to do whatever they can to impress you and to be that high performing guy.
Right. And if you're holding them accountable and tracking, if you have this really down, the beauty is they won't even wait for you to be disappointed. They'll be disappointed themselves when they're not hitting the numbers, and they'll adjust and figure it out themselves because they care.
Well, look at that for a tieback.
There's people, and this is true. And it's at Parker and Sons, it's Clover, at Review Kangaroo when we were in that, at our realty business. There are team members we have that, I will not exaggerate, care more about the business than we do. Not even comparable. Like they would do things I wouldn't do. And oh my God, what an amazing team member to have on your team when they're willing to do whatever it takes to create that amazing experience, to take care of that customer, to make sure everyone's set up for success, right?
And do you think, like, this is like a rhetorical question, do you think any of them would do that if they didn't think you cared about them? So it's a two-way circle. They care when they feel cared for.
Not just cared for, but they have to be empowered. But yeah, if they didn't care, if you didn't care about them, like, not many factory workers from the 1900s cared about their business and did the extra stuff, right? Like, why is that? It's because they were treated poorly. They didn't feel like they were cared about.
Right.
Here's a little something for people to think about as well, because there are people who are going to hear this and be skeptical, right? Like these are soft skills. We're talking about empathy, caring, listening, and people who just need to grow their business right now. But here's something to think about that shows just how crucial this is to actually care for your people. If you think for a moment about an act of greatness that you have witnessed from someone else in your life or read about somewhere, a true act of greatness that made you say, wow, that's amazing. I can almost guarantee that act of greatness was made up of two specific elements. Number one, it was self-directed, meaning no one told them to do it. And number two, it was out of a desire to serve others. It was for the benefit of other people. And that right there, acts of greatness are self-directed and they're for the benefit of others. And so if you want your people to be great, you cannot instruct them to do it, because the moment you instruct them to, it's no longer greatness, it's just obedience, right? And the only way to get them to do that is you have to be self-directed. You have to do for the benefit of others. You have to care for them. So this all starts with, this is validation for why this is so important to listen and to care. Because if you want your people to do that, to provide that experience for your customers, I mean, you've got to model the way.
Yeah. And my argument to this, I agree 100%. If people are worried this is like too hoo-hoo or whatever, right?
Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo.
Name one really large successful contractor where people don't want to follow the person running it or owns it because they're a great person, because they care about. Name one. I dare you. So
there you go. He's just banished all the hoo-hoo.
Well, I think what Zach was saying makes a lot of sense. When you break it down, me sitting on that cot, you choose your response, right? You choose your response according to Viktor Frankl. And in that moment, I needed to take, there it is. In that moment, Zach's showing the book, Viktor Frankl's book, but
no, call it out. It's a great book.
And Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
Required reading for every human being on earth.
Awesome. Look, there are things that are acted upon and things that act. And the thing about humans is we get both. We are acted upon, but we also can act. And if we can as opposed to being victims, choosing to be the hero, choosing to take personal responsibility, and then looking outward to serve other people. That's the kind of leadership that our people need. And that's what the Pattern for Excellence is all about. You want to win more moments, you start by being positive. And that positivity will attract people to you. You're prepared. In preparation, it comes down to being confident. And there's nothing better than preparation to inspire confidence. Listening, it comes down to understanding. Understanding invites connection. You connect with people on an emotional level. And then, of course, care, which is the fourth principle that we'll cover today. And it basically means that empathy validates worth. It validates one's worth. You master those four principles, you're going to win a whole lot more moment.
I love it, Brigham. Thank you so much for bringing that framework to us today. And I think it's hopefully challenged how you guys think about how you operate, how you show up, and how you can improve. And I think until next time, you can get very excited for another part of the framework that Brigham's bringing to us, and that we'll all elaborate and tease out. We'll make sure that it's not full of hoo-hoo. Thank you all for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And until next time, stay busy, take care, and chat to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Lip Service for Contractors. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to leave us a review in the App Store and don't forget to share with your friends. Ideas are cheap. Implementation is what separates the winners from the watchers. Go out and implement these ideas. See you on the next episode of Lip Service for Contractors.